Welcome to the full-time report down here.
It's a crossover episode.
Crossover episode. We're at Creature Conference in Athens by Conti and Jason Longshore. If you're downloading us on the Odyssey app, you're getting this at Off the Woodwork, where you usually find the full-time report, but this is really soccer down here with Jason Longshore and John Nelson and Jarrett Smith and a cast of thousands.
Yes.
And it is so wonderful to look at this crowd here.
It's a huge crowd of Atlanta United fans.
So great to see all of you. We are here because Atlanta United played a not-so-friendly exhibition match today against Memphis.
Not friendly at all.
9-01, and it ended in a 1-1 draw, with Jamal Thierry scoring in the 90th minute to secure the draw for Atlanta United. Knights of Pickering scoring in the 3rd minute for Memphis. Look, it's a preseason game. Things are going to be a little choppy in the preseason. I think as far as quality of performance is concerned, maybe just a teeny step back from last week in Birmingham, but I'm not really pressed over it right now. I think, number one, Memphis is a really good side.
Yes.
They're a really good side that matches up very well against Atlanta United.
Yep.
To me, with these preseason games, Jason, this is what's most important. Get out of it without an injury, which you did again today, as you did last week in Birmingham.
Correct.
And you want to have your team tested by some adversity that is not going to hurt you. It's not going to count as a result against you in the standings. And Atlanta United now has had 2 preseason matches where they have been tested and where they have felt a little bit of adversity. And I think in both of those cases, yesterday in Birmingham and today, or not yesterday, last week in Birmingham, and today in Athens, for the most part, Atlanta United passed the test. It was a statistically dominant performance by Atlanta United today. I think the first group may have started pressing a little bit because they knew they were coming out at 45 minutes. They were really pressing to get that equalizer. I have no major concerns over what I saw today. I still feel very good about this group with the regular season opener 3 weeks away.
Yeah, look, you got to build muscle memory in dealing with adversity, and you've got to do it in preseason. If you just play teams that you dominate in preseason, you don't get that much out of it except for the physical side. You know, getting minutes is always good, but we've seen a strategy change in preseason, and I think this one was very intentional, not going to Mexico, playing teams in the region to start with, but away, having to make a trip, getting into that mentality of we're not in our comfortable surroundings. We're not playing at the training ground. We're not playing in Kennesaw that we know well. We have to go somewhere that we don't know as well. It feels different. You had a home crowd today, but you had to go through just the whole exercise of getting there, getting on the bus, coming at here, dealing with all of that. These are things that you do on the road, and it's part of that process. This team has to be better on the road in 2024. If they're not, they can't get higher in the table. I think this team, with what they're dealing with in preseason, will be better on the road. I think you have a different personality with this group. You start to see that personality come out in games like this. I think what we saw with that first group, you have a kind of a weird goal that you concede. It's frustrating that you concede a goal in that way. Full credit to Lucas Turchi and his run that unbalanced Atlanta. You look like you've got it dealt with. Hernandez isn't able to clear. It falls to Pickering, and what a finish from the kid. That kid has our number.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. He's got Atlanta's number somehow, Knights of Pickering. But after that, about 15 minutes of kind of getting settled, and then you saw 30 minutes of dominance from that group.
Yes.
8 corners in the first half?
Yes.
12, 13 shots, if I remember right.
Yes.
A lot in the first half.
Yep.
So you dominated the play, and you had to fight for it a little bit. Brooks Lennon was going to fight Marlon Santos. You know, Bartosz Slish getting stuck into tackles. Like, you need to go through those things to know that in a game in Columbus, in a game in Orlando, in a game in Philadelphia, you've got my back and I got your back.
Yeah, and also you're playing with combinations that either you haven't played much with at all, or in the case of Schlish with Mayimba, first time ever.
Yeah.
Very rare to see Noah Cobb and Luis Abram playing together as a center back.
I'm going to put it up again, though. Noah Cobb, I think, was the best player in the first 45. Yeah. Noah Cobb, at his age, doing the things he's doing so far in preseason, because he was really good in Birmingham as well. I had talked about it coming into the year that I thought, okay, he's going to get time with the second team. He'll be the fourth center back, and he'll mostly play for the twos. If he plays like this, Gregerson has to be on his toes. Abram has to be on his toes. Williams, who's also been good in preseason, has to be on their toes. So far, it's 75 minutes, but Noah Cobb looks like he has made a big jump.
No, I agree. In fact, if we want to talk about the match as a whole and even the second half, I thought Luke Brennan was someone in the second group that stood out.
Good.
Jay Fortune, someone in the second group who stood
Outstanding
out.
Outstanding for Fortune.
Morales, someone in the second group who I thought stood out. What's the common thread with all of these?
Guys with time with Atlanta United, too.
That's exactly right.
And that Atlanta United, too, such an important part of all of this. And then even Javier Armas and Matias Gallardo, their performances. Yeah, this is a spot where you can bring guys like Gallardo in. Gallardo came up through River Plate. His dad was the coach. That already makes it difficult when he was there. He's got a ton of pressure on him in Argentina. He didn't get past the second team with River. That's not easy to do. Comes to Atlanta where the expectations are more reasonable. He can get settled in. You see the talent. You see who his dad is, the way that he plays.
Yeah.
He's got that Marcelo Gallardo skill level. He was great today. And now you get him for a full season. Gallardo and Armas, and we had the conversation with Gonzalo Pineda yesterday. And the biggest takeaway for me from that was how excited he was about the second team players, the academy players, and the guys that you might have walked into preseason and thought were in the second group or the third group, how happy he was about the competition he's got for spots.
Yeah, and also kind of realizing that he might have some tougher decisions than he anticipated, which is a good thing.
It's a very good thing.
By the way, this is a very good thing. One other thing that I like to, going back to the first group for a moment, I mean, I think we've talked about the back line, and Abram and Cobb are very good. We talked a little bit about the midfield and how chemistry, it's going to take a little time.
Yeah.
Schlisch is going to form that chemistry, though, with Mayimba.
Yes.
Firmino, not the same type of match today as he had against Birmingham.
No.
Solid.
You know what I liked about Firmino today is we talked about it maybe halfway through. I felt like they weren't finding him and he wasn't finding the game. That changed in the second half of the first half.
Correct.
Where he started to find those spots making runs off of Yorgos. Nick Firmino can play as a 9. I don't think he is a 9. He's one of those guys, honestly, if you want a comparison, it's kind of like Clint Dempsey in that he doesn't really have a position. Like, he's not – you see some guys, it's like he's a center back. He's a defensive midfielder. He's a 10. Nick can play as an 8. He could play as a 6 if he had to. He made the trip to Columbus last year early in the season as the emergency center back.
Right.
He can play as a 9. He can play as a 10. He can play on the wing. He's a soccer player.
Right.
And he figured it out at that level with a group that he hadn't played with very much. He figured out where he could impact the game, and he did a really good job of it.
Well, and I think one thing that Atlanta United unlocked in the second half of the first half, when they started inverting Silva and Saba, you started to see Lennon tuck inside a little bit more.
Yep.
And I think Lennon was getting into dangerous spots, making some really threatening runs, kind of tucking in with, at times, Silva playing out on the flank, and at times Saba out there too. Unfortunately, Atlanta United just couldn't pump in enough crosses today, I think, to really test Tyler Derrick, to really give Giacomakis any kind of meaningful service. But I did like to see that interplay of Saba with Lennon, with Silva and Lennon. I like seeing Lennon with the first group. He played with the second group in Birmingham. And again, do not read too much into, we talked about this on the game broadcast. Don't read too much into who's in the first group and who's in the second group right now. What Gonzalo Pineda is trying to do is find as many meaningful playing opportunities as possible for all of his personnel, which means someone who might be an opening day starter in Columbus might have to play with the second group right now in order to get 45 meaningful minutes. Someone who might be coming off the bench in Columbus might be in that starting group.
Yep.
I've already gotten a lot of questions about goalkeeper as we were setting up. Let me take a poll.
Here we go.
Unscientific
Here
poll.
we go.
Unscientific poll. by applause. How many people in this lovely pavilion with beautiful Atlanta United fans, by applause, applaud if you would like for Brad Guzan to be the starter in Columbus? Okay. Applaud if you would like Josh Cohen to be the starter in Columbus. And I would say the Cohen group probably had, but we love Brad too. Listen, here's what I told some of you out here, and I think we'll share this now with our video audience. We'll talk about this on the full-time report. Mm-hmm. Brad Guzan's got to lose the job. Brad Guzan
I would agree.
Brad Guzan is the incumbent goalkeeper. Just because Josh Cohen was with the first group today, I don't think that's any kind of tip that they're lining him up to be the starter in Columbus. Brad Guzan is coming in to compete. I had a conversation with him in Birmingham.
Yep.
He's very, very realistic about the situation that he's in right now, but he wants to come in and compete and win this job. And I think Atlanta United wants Josh Cohen to come in here and do everything he possibly can to take it from him. And that, by the way, it's a good thing. It's a good positive thing. It's a good goalkeeper room you have right now. I don't want to count Quentin Westberg out of that either. I mean, Quentin Westberg's one of the nicest guys on the team and a real leader, both in the dressing room and I think, externally.
A very important player in that group.
But, for everyone here at Creature Comforts who applauded politely for Brad Guzan, I wouldn't necessarily be jumping to any conclusions yet about Brad Guzan. Cohen, by the way, the 2 goals he's given up in the preseason, absolutely unstoppable, not his fault in either case.
Yeah, one of them's a deflection. The one today, nothing you can do.
Yeah.
Look, I think you wanted competition, and I think Garth Lagerwey's talked about that. Carlos Bocanegra's talked about that. Gonzalo Pineda's talked about that. Both Brad Guzan and Josh Cohen have talked about that. They know the situation. These are 2 professionals, and what I'll say about Brad is I'll give him a ton of credit because if Brad Guzan had not come back after the Achilles injury, no one would have been surprised. No one would have faulted him. He's had one of the best careers for a goalkeeper of anyone from the United States, period. Brad Guzan deserves every bit of respect that he has earned. He came back from an Achilles faster than anybody you could imagine. They were having to slow him down. Then he gets his knee wrecked in New York City. He came back from that faster than anyone could imagine. He's a fighter, but he knows the situation. Yeah. Cohen has been brought in, and Cohen's been a number 1 where he's been. Brad's been a number 1 where he's been. The better goalkeeper in preseason, and that's not purely saved percentage. That's not purely how many goals you give up. There's a lot of factors. Leadership in the back, communication in the back, playing with the ball at your feet. Lots of different factors that go into it, but ultimately the best one will start in Columbus, and that person might not be the starter in 34 games.
Totally agree. In fact, if you were to maybe estimate 40 competitions for Atlanta United between MLS regular
I hope
season,
it's more.
I hope it's more.
I want more than 40.
But let's just say 40 is the baseline because it's a good even
We'll do
number.
a round number.
Good even number. We'll say 4. Well, no, you know what? I'll even take it to 50. How about that?
Okay, there we go.
U.S. Open Cup, because I think the first team's going to play in that from what we've heard.
Yeah.
Leagues Cup, playoffs, MLS regular season. I wouldn't be shocked if it turned out to be close to 25 for Josh and 25 to Brad.
It could be a split.
It wouldn't shock me at all. I think some of it will have to do with form.
Yes.
Some of it could have to do with call-ups, particularly for Cohen, I think.
Maybe
right?
He's got to get his way into that mix. He hasn't been, but that's part of the reason why he came to MLS and came to be
on that
here.
Radar.
Yeah, because the thing about Josh Cohen and just the thing that I would caution in general in this conversation, the thing I'd caution you about is it's easy to get excited about something new.
Right.
I don't know about anybody here, but I watch so many different leagues around the world. The Israeli Premier League is one that I have not had a chance to watch. It's not available here. Abby says she's watched it. I'm a little skeptical, but okay. I've seen some of his work, obviously, in UEFA competition, but he came here to get on the radar for that national team. He's still young when it comes to goalkeepers, so he's got that opportunity. He's got to earn the job. Brad's going to do everything to keep the job, and it's going to make the team better in the long run that you have 2 guys fighting for it.
You know what's interesting, though? I mean, here we are, 2 preseason matches into this. 3 weeks away from the start of the regular season. This preseason, we don't have Barco watch.
Nope.
When's he going to get in?
No.
Is he going to be
watch.
in time?
Yorgos watch.
We don't have
a little
Yorgos watch. We don't have Pitti watch.
No.
We don't have Arzamendi and Villasanti watch.
Wow. That's a throwback right there.
Yeah, from the COVID year.
That's a throwback.
This is really very different in a refreshing way.
We had a couple days of Almada watch, maybe.
Yeah, lightly, but it never really got hot.
No, it didn't.
It never really got hot. There was never really a tier 1 red alert for Almada watch.
Fiorentina doesn't have that kind of money. Right. They were the last one that got mentioned. Right. They can't throw that kind of cash around.
So, I mean, here we are, this 2024 preseason, everything has been settled, and it's only February 3rd. And to me, it's refreshing.
Amazing.
It's a luxury for Atlanta United. I mean, talk to our friends up I-85 right now and the scrambling that they're having to do.
They just had 2 designated players leave on the decision day for Europe. Now they've got to replace them with players who are not wanted at their clubs because they can't be replaced at their clubs. Or LAFC, if you want to get into another team that was in the final last year, they opened camp with 17 players under contract. Yeah. 17.
Well, I'll take it a step further. If you look at the Eastern Conference playoff teams from last year, the only 2 that really don't have like a glaring what are we going to do question at this point right now are Atlanta and Columbus, in my opinion.
That's accurate.
You certainly can't say that about Orlando. You can't say that about Philadelphia. I don't think you can say that about New England. Cincinnati, I think, still has some questions at center forward. It's a luxury for Atlanta United to be in right now. You hope that they can seize upon that. I'm optimistic. I'd like to see Thiago Almada with this group. I think that will be tricky because he plays through the 10th for Argentina.
Yep.
He's been playing a lot of matches.
They've been in camp really since early December.
Right.
So he didn't have much of an off season.
You don't have a fitness concern with Thiago, but you might have a chemistry concern a little bit.
Honestly, you have a different kind of fitness concern. Like
overuse, maybe.
Yes, he would be fit to play. Like if he walked into Columbus and played 90 minutes, he can do that. But he's played so much. That's why you didn't see Gregerson today.
Right.
Gregerson came off of playing for 6 months. That's why Slish probably won't play over 100 minutes down in Florida because he's in the same situation. You've got to manage those minutes of those kind of guys. And Thiago is in that in a little bit different way because ultimately in this competition in CONMEBOL, he could end up with, I think, 8 games played, 7 or 8, and a lot of pressure. That's the other element to Thiago is you factor in the amount of minutes he's played. He's done that wearing a captain's armband, wearing a number 10 for Argentina. Y'all don't know the weight of that shirt. That is a heavy, heavy responsibility. He's going to need a mental break.
Yeah.
And, that's going to be the question is, does he come straight into camp when the time is done, hopefully after they qualify for the Olympics? Does he get a break? Does he come into camp but not play for a little bit? We'll see. I think he'll be in the mix for Columbus. But it wouldn't shock me if he doesn't come into camp until a little bit later and maybe comes off the bench in Columbus.
All right, let's kind of summarize the full-time report down here with this because we always do this on the full-time report. Who was your man of the match today?
Wow. It's hard in these preseason games because of the splits.
Right.
In the first group, my man of the match was Noah Cobb. In the second group, my man of the match was Javier Armas. Those are my 2 men of the match. And that's not to say like other guys didn't play well, but those are the first 2 that come to mind. I thought Cobb commanded the back line with the first group. And in that second group, Armas was the one who controlled the tempo. And the other thing to keep in mind about Armas, I think we can share a little bit of this. Dax McCarty was going to start. I think you saw the graphic for the second half. He didn't. I don't know. Maybe Madison Cruz, who spoke to Gonzalo Pineda, will have some information for you all on that when we're done. But Armas was going to play a different position in that midfield, and he had to adjust probably somewhat last minute, and he did it wonderfully. And he was great in that role and the interplay with that group, but Armas really controlling it so good. So that's an Atlanta United 2 player that has been one of your best players so far in preseason.
Yeah, and I agree with you on Cobb and Armas. My honorable mention, first group would go to Brooks Lennon.
Agree.
If nothing else, for getting Marlon Santos a little bit
Wow.
screwy.
That's not too hard to do. Marlon runs a little hot from time to time.
And my second group honorable mention is Luke Brennan. I thought he did a really good job getting into some dangerous spots, created a couple good chances. No real big chances in the second half, but a couple good chances. They would be my honorable mention.
I'll give an honorable mention to TRA, and not just for the goal. I thought his overall work and hard work, too.
TRA blasted that one across the face of goal that Tyler Wolf
should have been on the back post.
Should have been on the back post for, and that could have produced a goal. And maybe we're talking about a different scoreline.
Yeah.
Final stats, it was this is the one that really cracks me up. 30 combined fouls.
That's an Atlanta-Philadelphia game.
Today. Right. 30 combined fouls with 4 combined bookings. The Duncan guy for Memphis probably should have been sent off.
Ooh, he was close.
He was playing on an orange card there. But the shot total was overwhelmingly in favor of Atlanta United, 19-4. 5 shots on target to 2 for Atlanta United. Each team had a save, so that's the basic statistical recap. I think the possession that wasn't being scored, but it felt like 60-40 Atlanta in that ballpark.
Yeah.
Matt State might have had a little bit to do with that in the second half. But I'll give Memphis credit on one thing. They, even when they switched to 5 in the back, they still wanted to play.
Yeah, they had to, because Turchi was about to pass out.
Right, and Turchi was awesome.
Turchi is a center back who, because of the numbers, and they had to use 2 subs in the first half, so that messed everything up for Stephen Glass and Memphis. Turchi was playing as a 10 for a little while, and after making a couple of runs and trying to chase Gajardo and Armas down, he's like, I'm going back to center back. Don't make me run anymore.
Right. So anyhow, that's kind of the service elements of the full-time report down here. Jason is going to be in Florida on Wednesday, calling a live stream for Atlanta United and Montreal Impact. No radio there, but it will be on Atlanta United's digital platforms. And then Saturday, we'll be together down in St. Petersburg for Atlanta United and Tampa Bay Rowdies. I'm excited for that one. The Rowdies, that's a club that has a history behind it. I'll be anxious. I've never seen them in person before.
The Rowdies and Atlanta United, too, had some you thought today had some friction to it. This Rowdies group is a little different, but if they keep that same personality, big, strong, physical, it'll be a good test.
Yeah, and again, I think Atlanta United has been very strategic in lining this up the way they have. So we'll have that on the radio at 2 p.m. next Saturday, and on a video stream as well next Saturday, 3 p.m. and on the Atlanta United digital platforms. And then 3 weeks from tonight, we'll be in Columbus. Today, rather, we'll be in Columbus. Frigid Columbus for Atlanta United and Columbus crew.
I hope it's not frigid.
The weather is always a factor.
Yeah, Columbus is always weird with this.
Weather in Columbus. And the last time we were there in a cold weather month, the pitch flooded. Then it turned to ice.
Yeah.
You couldn't get into Columbus. You had to fly to Lexington.
I had to drive from Lexington to Columbus on the day of the game.
It was a Joe Dickerson game.
We called the game from the end zone on the stage.
On the stage because our booth flooded. It was something else. So that'll do it for the full-time report down here. And we're going to have Madison Cruz and Jarrett Smith jump in next.
I think John's going to jump in.
John Nelson. Okay.
Jarrett is waving off.
Jarrett's had a busy day.
Hello? Oh, yeah, there we are. We're here now.
Hi, John. Hi, Madison.
Hello.
All right, so let's see. Maddie has to come this way.
Okay. We got Abby Shipman.
There we go. All right. Abby's our lead videographer.
Unofficial lead videographer.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Maddie, you with us?
I'm with you.
All right. So first and foremost, we have to get Maddie her cheap pop because she has family here today in the front row.
Hey. All right. I see the resemblance a little bit.
Yeah.
So your sister and your cousin, or what do we have here? Help me out.
No, so we got my mom, and then we got my aunt. We got my Uncle Brady, Uncle Travis, my dad, And then we got my Grammy.
Your grandmother even?
Yeah, my grandmother's
Oh my
here.
goodness! Wow, this
Well,
is wonderful.
half the family lives in Athens, so it was
Well,
not
then they
far
had
from
no
that.
excuse.
They had no excuse. They
They
had
had
to
no-
be here.
Is that how you all stay so young? You live in a college town, basically, and it
There
keeps
you go.
young? That's outstanding. You have to be very proud of your daughter/niece/granddaughter. She does a fantastic job.
Yeah, for those that do not know, I'm John Nelson, host of Soccer Down Here Daily Radio on the SDH Network, 9:05 Eastern Time. We believe in Turner Time, Monday through Friday. We start at the 05. We go for 2 hours, maybe, sometimes more. And the Twitch pitch is an active part of it. We got Twitch pitch with us
right.
live today as
right.
well. And what we always like to do with Maddie is say that Maddie Cruz is on the ones and twos.
Yeah.
And so she produces the morning show with us. She's a contributor, so she's all over the place. And she had post-game. She was in the post-game. So post-game thoughts, you were in the scrums. What were people saying?
I mean, a lot of it was just echoing a lot of the younger players that came in. I mean, we got to talk to Noah Cobb. We talked a lot about him, about how he was handling in that back line, the chemistry between there, and, how the older players will ask him questions about what's going on. He asks them questions. It's kind of like a back and forth thing. Also mentioned one of his goals is to be on the U20s for U.S. men's national team, which is something that he's aspiring to do. We got to talk to Lennon a bit about the U.S. men's national team, and him and Noah have been talking about that, and how Noah said that he should have been on the team, and then Lennon said, I don't disagree with you. His words, not mine. His words, not mine.
Saying that Brooks should have been on the team, or that
Brooks should have been on the team. I
don't
agree
know why
too.
he doesn't get called up more. I don't get that.
I don't get it either. I mean, he's a great player. I'm like, why don't they utilize him? Personally, he should have been in that
That
one
would be a
call-up with all the
question
MLS
for
players.
some guy named Berhalter.
Yeah, I guess. I have my thoughts, but this isn't U.S. men's national team talk. So
this is
we won't
not
talk
men's
about that
national
right
team
now.
down here, at least not today.
It's not today.
Bart's here though, right? Did I see Bart Keeler?
Did we see Bart Keeler?
I could have sworn I saw Bart here.
Okay, well, he might
maybe
be
not.
floating around
Okay,
here somewhere.
He would have thoughts.
He'll yell.
Sorry
Anyway.
about that. Did not
But
interrupt.
I mean, a lot of it was just talking about the chemistry. It's preseason. A lot of people are freaking out, all that stuff, but it's preseason. They're trying things out. They're getting things ready to go. One of the things Pineda said that I agree with him with is, in the first half, the team, they weren't pressing. They weren't getting into places where they needed to be. And the second group did exactly that. They were pressing. They were getting in there. They were getting shots. They were doing things that the first group wasn't doing. And a lot of them were younger players that we have seen from the academy, players we've seen from AU too. And so I think that just goes to show the development. And he talked a little bit about that as well. So make sure you tune into that. That'll be up at some point this weekend. So
Yeah, what you said.
Huh?
So what you said.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was confused.
What was the general vibe though? Was it upbeat? Were they disappointed in any way? I mean, it is a draw. It's not a win, but the way they got the draw, I would imagine they felt pretty good about.
Yeah, I mean, I think Pineda was proud with the way they fought in the end to get the equalizer, to get there. But obviously, he even mentioned, they didn't win. It was, they tied, and, it's not exactly what they want. He said he's going to talk to the team Monday, and we'll go from there.
As we work through, since Mike and Jason have already breached this idea, I will ask you.
I'm nervous.
Give me your MVPs for group number one. I'm not going to say for the day. Okay. Your MVP for group number one, MVP for group number two, and an honorable mention. So MVP for group number one, we have Cobb and Lennon getting honorable mention. So Cobb was Jason's. Who was yours?
Cobb was my pick, and I gave Lennon the honorable
Okay, so
mention.
Cobb and Lennon were MVP and honorable mention. What about you in the first 45?
Mine would have to be Silva. He was all over that pitch.
Okay.
I mean, he was doing things I didn't even know he could do. But he surprises me every time he's on the pitch. He comes on there and he just does things that I don't think I've ever seen any other player do.
No, that's actually a really good call. I mean, his work rate was really high today, and you still saw a little bit of like sass from him. He wasn't trying to pull a Rabona on anyone, but you did see a little bit of the Silva magic. I think that's a good call. I think he had kind of an underrated performance today.
Yeah, and I mean, y'all said it too. I mean, I thought Cobb and Lennon were my other top three. I thought they all just played a very well-rounded game. And, Lennon, not afraid to get in there. We saw, I don't know if y'all were watching, but he got into it with another 11. On
Lennon and Marlon. That
they
seems to
got
be the
into
big
it.
thing
That
is
was-
Lennon and Marlon Santos.
Lennon was getting into it. And I mean, they mentioned tensions were high, but I mean, that's another thing too. They said they obviously didn't want the chippiness because it's a preseason match. You don't want to get bumps and bruises. You don't want to get those injuries.
Correct.
But it was good to get that energy, especially for when you're going into the MLS season. You're going to have games like that. And so it was kind of, they mentioned that it was a good balance to have. Would they not have wanted it? Of course. But they said it was good preparation kind of.
Yeah, honestly, it was kind of right on that line of perfection where you had adversity, you had a little bit of intensity, a little bit of starch in it, but you didn't have like a melee or anyone getting kicked or anything like that. No one got hurt.
Leave it to Marlon. That would have happened in another 10 minutes. Or Zachary Duncan.
I hope not. I mean, yeah, Duncan. I mean, playing on an orange card at the end.
That was orange plus, man.
Honestly, though, I do really think there's a lot of respect between these two clubs.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, obviously, Glassy and Heinman and Luis Fernando and their connections with Atlanta United. But I think Atlanta United has a really healthy respect. They don't view Memphis as like a pesky USL championship side. Mm-hmm. This is a team that came into Kennesaw and really decisively beat Atlanta United, even though it was an extra time. And, Atlanta United held the lead most of the match. I think they do have a lot of respect for Memphis.
It was nice, too. It didn't feel like, a preseason. It felt like I was sitting up there in the box, like biting my fingernails the whole time. It was a really fun game to watch from both sides. Yeah. And I think it was a great day of football. I liked it a lot. It was a lot of fun.
Second 45. I know that Javier Armas continues to impress for you.
Oh yeah, Armas, but I know that he was already mentioned. But Brennan,
okay,
Brennan was phenomenal. I thought he played a great game.
I'm still getting used to Luke with the new haircut.
Yeah, I don't mind it. It's identifiable enough. It's under control. It's not anything that's going to impair his vision.
Because the last thing you need is lettuce that's out of control.
I agree. Honestly, look, if you look at that second group, it's hard to pick out someone who didn't play well in that second group. Like I thought Matthew Edwards was very, very up for it today. Derek Williams had a couple attempts on target.
Good quarterbacking from him, too.
And started the build-up to the goal. It was Williams to Armas to TRA. I thought Efren Morales looked very polished, very mature. Again, Gajardo really stood out to me. At one point, I'm like, yeah, that guy kind of looks like Almada a little bit just in terms of body type and physical presence. I was very, very pleased with that second group. Yeah. Match state is a factor. Who you're playing against is a factor. That's reserves and trialists you're playing against. So we want to temper that a little bit. But the kids in 2 preseason appearances now kind of reminds me a little bit of that Cruz Azul, not Cruz Azul. Who did they play in the AmFam Cup? Was it
Toluca?
Toluca.
Yes.
Oh, an AmFam 2 Electric Boogaloo.
That's right. Yeah, in Electric Boogaloo AmFam 2.
Yeah.
The kids had the best goal of the whole game.
Yep.
Luke Brennan produced a goal that the first team up until that point in the preseason had not produced. So really just, again, total shout out to the ATLUTD 2 technical staff, Matt Lowry and his academy staff. You're going to start to see a bunch of that group that was coached by Kevin Kratz that won the MLS championship last May, starting to really factor into first and second team decisions this year. I was very, very impressed overall by that second group today.
Me too. Absolutely. You echoed everything that I wanted to say. And then Jamal, obviously, with his first goal ever with the
Love
team.
it. I read first goal ever.
It was his first goal ever.
That.
I know. Yeah. I didn't either.
Wow. Okay.
That was a mind bender.
Yeah, that is. Does it count because it's a preseason game?
Well, I mean, it's going to count in all of our stats. It gives us stuff to talk about.
It did happen. It did occur.
Jamal TRA scored a goal. Hey, he's got 1 goal for Atlanta United. So therefore, it happens.
Hopefully, many more to come.
Absolutely.
Hopefully, he doesn't end on the Miguel Berry number.
No. He's in LAG now, right?
He is.
You need to get something to eat, don't you? Or maybe a drink?
I have fries. I'm good, but I am going to step away.
You're going to tag out?
I am going to tag out.
All right, Tyler Pilgrim, where are you?
Yeah. Madison, great job.
Yes, thank you.
John, great job.
Good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you guys, and we'll see you all in March. Can't wait. Good to see you all.
I have things for you, so don't leave until I hand them to you.
Good.
Wait a segment before you leave.
Okay.
All right, so we need Tyler Pilgrim to come in. Tyler Pilgrim. He's behind us. Oh, he's tagging out. Okay, so he's going to be here in the Mike Conti slot. So Tyler hangs out with us, my friends at Dirty South Soccer.
Howdy.
Second time in a row that Tyler gets to hang out. He was with us in Birmingham with our friends at Ghost Train. And now he's here with our friends at Creature Comforts. And by the way, thanks to our friends here at Creature Comforts for being fantastic hosts as always. And thanks to all of you guys for being a part of this. and, maybe hang out with us for a little bit as we continue to talk. All right, so we got Mike's ideas. Maddie was in with post. You got to see some of the post game as well. So we got Maddie's perspective on what she saw with all the post game madness and scrums. What else did you pick up from the conversations?
So I don't want to repeat anything.
No, that would be bad.
Yeah, I also didn't hear what was said.
Okay.
But
so if you do repeat what Maddie said, Maddie will tell you that you're repeating what she said.
Just buzz in.
I will. I promise. I got you.
One of the things that stood out to me the most was Brooks Lennon.
Yeah.
Chatting about how chippy the game was. And
it was chippy?
Well, maybe just a little bit. Just a little bit. He started talking about it, right? And he said, this didn't feel like a preseason friendly. It was a very unfriendly preseason match.
Yes.
But he chatted about it for a minute, and then he said, I think it's good for us. I think this is the kind of match that you want to get into your system now, because he said we will outclass just about any team in MLS on our football, but we need to learn how to play on our front foot even when things don't go our way. So that was one of the things that kind of stood out to me, specifically from Brooks, because he's the guy that wants to be the leader on the pitch. He's a guy that, you could throw a captain's armband on at any point. And I thought it was strong words, because I think he echoes a lot of what fans see a lot of times. Like, Atlanta has that very pretty football mentality, but there are times when things don't go their way and they kind of switch off for a moment and then they get punished. So it was good to hear that kind of side of things. And Noah Cobb mentioning alongside that, being more gritty. He wants the team to be more gritty, have a little bit more fight to them. And I think that's what you need in MLS.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of said somewhat of the same thing. You explained it a bit better than I did, though. You explained it better than I did.
You kind of took some of what she said.
I didn't want to stop you. You were on a roll. I didn't want to stop you. Like, listen, I'm not going to stop you. I mean, that was one thing that stood out to me, too. Just they talked a lot about that because it was a very physical game. I mean, when we were all sitting up there, there were moments where we were just like flabbergasted with how, Memphis wasn't letting up. That was the thing stood out to me, too. They weren't treating it like a friendly, and I didn't think Atlanta United was going to either. And it was good to see. I think they needed that challenge, and I think it's going to help them, especially going into the season, because I think they need to be more gritty. Last season, I thought there were moments where it seemed like on the pitch, at least as from a fan perspective, that they didn't care. They would be down 2 goals, and they'd sit there, and you kind of be like, why aren't you trying, to press? Why aren't you getting in there? Why don't you make those decisions? So to hear them say that and to kind of get that, I think it's gonna paint a picture of what we can expect from the team going into this season.
100%.
Mentioning gritty, did you talk to Brooks when Brooks was there? Did you talk about the receipt that he gave to Marlon after all of the chippiness that was going on the near side, where Marlon's trying to draw fouls? Marlon's gonna Marlon. We know this 100%. About Marlon Santos. He's going to do this for you.
It's just a matter of time.
Class A troublemaker. He's the guy that you hate on the other team, but if he's on your team, you're like, yeah, love him. That kind of thing. But then you get the hip check. You get the hip check receipt from Brooks on Marlon, and Marlon's looking at the AR. It's like, yeah, it's a foul. And then after that's over, they keep going down there, and then they keep jostling. But did he talk about receipts at all?
No, but I think his facial expression said it all. We were up in the booth, right? And we're looking at this like, all right, how much longer before that receipt comes due, And it did shortly thereafter. But
waste no time.
Yeah.
Get it done, move on.
Get it done, move on, set the tone. Don't get the ref involved. Just do your thing and have fun with it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And to quote Jarrett Smith, it was a CVS receipt. That's what it was. So we talked about it.
It was that long.
It was that long. It was
that
right
long
there,
a piece of paper.
Ready to go. It was great to watch. It came in like not even a second after.
$2.38 worth of rewards are available to you next time you check out.
Absolutely.
Open Cup's coming. Cup's coming.
Open Cup's going to be fun.
Yeah. When you look at the first 2 matches, because you've been with us in Birmingham, and by the way, Maddie is still looking for her Lady Electric kit from our friends at Birmingham
Jay
Legion.
Jeeps. Listen, if you're watching, I'll give you my address right here. I want the jersey so bad.
Those
I was promised it.
They're pretty sweet.
So for those of you that don't know the story, who might be watching on Twitch Pitch or watching here at Creature Comforts, when we were in Birmingham, Birmingham Legion have come out with a new jersey this year that personifies Lady Electra, one of the symbols of Birmingham,
so cool.
Alabama. And it's gorgeous. And so, of course, other networks had other hosts wearing it during the week. And so that lit a fire under Maddie. And so now Maddie wants her Lady Electra kit more than anything on this planet right now.
I was promised it, and I still haven't gotten it. And I feel disrespected.
Speaking of receipts.
Yeah.
Speaking
that's
of
going to be
it's recorded.
That's it.
We
Yeah.
have it
Yeah,
on
it is.
live stream.
Those of you that
It's
missed
recorded.
the show, it is absolutely recorded.
I'm gonna find the clip and I'm gonna put it on social media and be like, hey, where is
This
it?
will be a constant reminder.
Absolutely.
First two matches. You were in Birmingham. You saw what was going on. Monsoon in the middle. Take the monsoon out of that first match. And then you can add the receipts from today if you wish, the grittiness of today's match. Look at these first two matches before they head down to Tampa for the doubleheader coming up next week. What are some of the things that have stuck with you in these first two matches that are signs of a different looking 2024 squad?
Atlanta seems unbothered by a lot of the adversity because, I mean, you mentioned taking the rain and the downpour, the monsoon out of Birmingham.
I think we should keep playing. I don't
Yeah,
think the heavy stuff's going to
go.
come for a while.
But, I think that is one of those things that I think they were talking about it earlier, Mike and Jason. But every time Atlanta goes to Columbus, it is
Awful.
the worst. Yeah, I mean, it's terrible. So you're not going to always be playing under the wonderful roof of Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
What?
I mean, it's just
do
a
you
fact
mean?
of the game. I wish we could, but we can't. So, sometimes you're going to run into those really crappy situations, and you just have to learn to fight through the elements just as much as you do the other team. And I like what I've seen out of Atlanta coming in, and when they do get kind of punched in the mouth in the third minute like they did today, they looked unbothered, and in fact, actually looked like the better team for 90% of the match. They grew into it. I understand you got two completely separate 45 minutes, but you have a blueprint for, I think, what the entire club wants to do, and that is play their game. They're not going to change the way that they play. They may change up little bits and pieces of it, little tactics here and there, but they have an identity. And it's actually kind of a fortunate thing to be able to go into a preseason at this early point and say, yeah, the club has this identity and they're sticking to it. Because, I mean, you look at some of these other preseason games, I'm not going to name names, on world tours that look like a hot mess on the pitch.
Messi and friends?
I mean, maybe just a little bit, but,
The 100,000-mile club of Messi and
Yeah.
friends looking like a hot mess?
if all they want to do is go and get their frequent flyer miles while Atlanta is learning how to play in the league that matters, who cares? But no, I like what I've seen. I like the patience that they have in the build-up. I like that they're playing their game. And I like that they seem unbothered by the adversity they've run into.
Didn't we calculate how many miles?
Yeah, literally it was over like 100,000 miles.
That's crazy. Anyway, not the point.
Circumventing the globe.
Messi
Yeah.
and friends are a hot
It's a world
Messi
tour.
and friends in the worst way possible.
World tour.
Don't know who's playing defense for them. And even when they have 11 on the pitch, you don't know who's playing defense
Nope.
for them. Literally, it's over the top. And I am awful at this. I am awful at picking winners. Picking winners, projecting winners. Literally, I'll sit there and I'll be like, hey, I think so-and-so is going to win. Traditionally, go the other way. I will say this right now. For every single match for Messi and friends this year, when you look up the juice boxes and you see a total, take the over. Whatever it is, take the over. I mean, it's going to be 4-3 all over the place. Of course, I say that. What's going to happen? Drake Calendar's going to stand on his head and everything's going to be like 1-0, 2-1.
Or he gets dunked on from the halfway line.
Ooh.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
By
that's a little
Emerick
spicy.
Laporte. So, yeah, he leaves Manchester City and gets dunked on from 70.
oh God.
And they practiced, I think, in front of 40,000 in Hong Kong.
Yep.
Full house.
Yep.
And that's going to be the Hong Kong national team, Vissel Kobe. Then they're going to come back to Fort Lauderdale and take on Newell's Old Boys.
I mean, all that traveling just can't be good for, like, I guess. The
And not
stability
having a
of the
defense
team.
or a back line can't be good either.
That also doesn't help either. But I don't know that situation.
Did y'all
is
know we were
weird.
coming to Athens to trash Messi today?
Well, it is a day that ends in Y.
Yeah.
That is also true.
Yeah.
When it comes to the goalie situation, I know that we had the straw poll and there was louder applause for the gentleman who is not the incumbent.
Okay.
Although there is a massive appreciation for everything that Brad Guzan has done ever since he's walked in the door, and especially in the last year and a half. I'm looking at it like you need to have a 1 and a 1A.
Absolutely.
Because you're going to be playing 7,000 matches in a season, and you're going to need these situations where, A, you have 3 quality keepers challenging each other with Quentin Westberg, Cohen, and Brad Guzan. You got John Berner, who's going to be starting with the 2s, who was in Huntsville City last year. So you've got 4 experienced keepers there that's going to be a part of all of this discussion all season long. But for all of this stuff, you're going to need 2 quality keepers.
I think just in the first 2 matches, if you look at Josh Cohen, I haven't seen any kind of discourse in terms of like, oh, who needs to be starting, because we're not going to know who's starting until the first match.
It's the second exhibition. It's the second preseason match of the year.
100%.
It's like spring training, pitchers and catchers report, keepers and strikers report.
To be fair, we haven't seen them really do a lot either in the first 2 preseason games. They really kind of just like hung out back there. They didn't do much. And I mean, if we're looking at it, I think from a veteran standpoint, I think for the first couple matches, we will see Brad Guzan step up and be that starting goalkeeper just to keep that everything looking similar going into that season. But I think, if things kind of go down, I think Josh Cohen can definitely come in and snag that spot, because I think he has proven himself. People have talking about it, but I think veteran-wise, it's going to be Brad Guzan who's going to start more than likely.
I could go either way. I'll stick to what I've said on our show and everything. I think day one, I do think it'll be Josh Cohen, but that's not any disrespect to Brad. That's not anything against Brad, because Brad is going to go until he turns into Darth Vader and he's made out of parts. Like, he's not going away.
No.
So that's who he is. He has no give up button at all.
He's a T2000 model,
yes,
basically,
100%.
is what you're saying.
So yeah, I think it's tough because, if you want to go into the numbers, you look back last season, you're like, man, if the shot stopping was there, then maybe we're looking at something different come playoff time. And I don't think it was the Achilles that did Brad. I think it was the MCL in New York City. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe there was a little bit of a step lost there. But also, I mean, he's still the guy back there that is going to probably annoy his back line because he's constantly screaming at him. But he's the guy that's going to be
but Josh was big today.
Josh was losing his mind back there.
He was quite vocal. So that will be a constant.
Yes.
The voices will be coming from behind you all season long. It doesn't matter who it is back there.
And I think ultimately I would give the edge to Josh just because of his known shot-stopping ability at this point. But it's a flip of the coin. It's a flip of the coin. And you can't judge Josh on either one of the goals that he's given up in the preseason so far. The one in Birmingham took a deflection. He got put in a bad position. It went top right, upper 90. The one today, Pineda said he thought it took a deflection as well. But
I think it did. I thought I saw it change rotation.
Yeah, and regardless, great shot, ends up left upper 90. So you can't blame him on those.
So what's going on with you and at Dirty South SOC these days? At ATL Pilgrim, by the way, on the 280-character app.
Yes, that one, the X-Bird app. Just covering the team. We've got the content coming out as much as possible. Got to give a shout-out to Jackson Popkin over here, who runs the Dirty South Twitter most days.
Yep.
And yeah, we got the content going out there, and then on Scarves and Spikes.
When is next Scarves and Spikes?
Wednesday.
Okay.
It will be Wednesday at 7.
All right, so
we'll have a special guest there as well.
At ATL Pilgrim, at Dirty South SOC, and the 280-character app, Tyler Pilgrim from Dirty South Soccer. As always, my friend, thanks for hanging out with us and hanging out on the postgame show.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right, so I think we tag out for segment number 4, which means it's Jason and Jarrett. And I have something for you, so don't quite leave as I point off camera. So we'll bring in Jason and Jarrett and resurrect the days of the old Peach Street Post.
Over this way. Nobody's tripped yet. It's still early. So for those of you who found soccer down here a long time ago, you might have found a show before that called the Peachtree Post. We don't have the Bubba Sparks intro to play. We kind of did that because we didn't think anybody was listening at that time.
Yeah, I don't know if we'd be allowed to do it anymore.
We are in Athens, so we might be able to get away with it here.
He might be 2 blocks away.
He could be. I went to his album release party like down the street, down right. Washington, at Gator Haters at the time. That was a great bar back in the day. We're in Athens, Jarrett. We hate Gators around here.
I know, but you went to Athens at a different time.
Yes. There's like a couple different places that I remember driving over here.
Yeah.
Boar's Head, amazing. Like I was like, wow, I used to spend a lot of time in that place. Not anymore. Drove by a couple of the old places I used to live on the way over here, so that was cool. This is like a homecoming in a lot of ways. Athens is kind of like a second home for me. I spent too many years here.
I'm happy for you. Like I told you, I drove past the stadium and that's right, they did win 2 straight titles. Jesus, that just happened.
You know, it's still crazy to think about it after the days of Jim Donnan when I was here.
Yeah, well.
All right.
You get happy times.
This is how Peachtree Post would go sometimes. It would mostly be soccer, but it would sometimes veer into other things.
It was also discussing potential lineups, discussing potential opponents, figuring out how Seattle has not died yet, and then looking at rumors because we didn't have a source tier yet for South America. Like, we didn't have an idea of this person is a reliable source, this person is not.
Yeah, Peachtree Post was in the fall of 2016. So when you flash back to that time in the Atlanta United universe, you had a couple of signings.
You had Villalba Watch.
Villalba Watch was the first watch.
Yeah.
Where there were rumors, and it was like, who is this guy? And how can we find out about him? And, look at that highlight. He's really fast.
Same highlight all the time, too. It was the same
highlight. The first goal he scored for San Lorenzo.
Yeah, on the left side where he makes a 110-yard run with the ball.
Yes, it was that goal all the time. It's like, this guy's going to be great.
Yeah.
His introduction, Tata Martino's introduction, also, like you mentioned, that year was the Seattle emergence. What's that?
I believe Ladero came in that summer.
Ladero came in the summer. Siggy Schmid left in the summer. Brian Schmetzer took over in the summer. And they were one of the worst teams in the league and won the whole thing. It was just such a wild ride for that team. And then kind of morphed into soccer down here as we went. It's crazy, like looking back at those days and how we were talking earlier about this preseason with Atlanta United. That preseason, there were major guys being signed now, like at the beginning of February.
Yes.
The season started a little bit later, but Joseph Martinez was an early February signing. Carlos Carmona was an early February signing.
Mm-hmm.
There's at least one more major early February signing. This year, you've got your whole group right now.
I believe Brandon Vasquez was a late signing too.
He was December, I think. I think he was around expansion
late.
Draft.
Yeah, because you got him out of Mexico.
Yep.
On a young deal, and he was it was a great deal at the time. He was cheap. He hadn't turned into Brandon Vasquez. I remember because I'll never forget the Joseph deal because it was Oscar Romero was being tipped to come here, and Oscar Romero ends up going to China because this is when China had their boom where the Chinese Super League was spending all of the money in the world, and they were spending like Saudi money.
Yeah, that's why I forgot about that. It was Oscar Romero. He was going to come to Atlanta. He was going to pair up with his Paraguayan compatriot, Miguel Almiron. Yep. Was going to be amazing. And then it got hijacked by a Chinese club.
And you got Joseph. You took a waiver on Joseph on loan out of Torino.
Yeah, it was late, and it was like, okay, we've got one more DP spot. And remember, like, as that team was starting to come together, Joseph was there before that first friendly in Chattanooga.
Yep.
But as that team was
playing the wing.
Yeah, because the idea was, like Tata Martino, I think, was saying, we need one more in that attack. I think it's going to be Kenwin Jones as the 9, and Joseph would play off the wing with Villalba on the other side. That was the plan.
Yeah.
Going into that first, I remember that conversation going into that first preseason game, and then Joseph ends up being Joseph.
Yeah, and because the first preseason game, I remember we were very impressed with Yamil Assad because Yamil Assad was a total flyer you took out of LS.
Yeah, because he wasn't playing,
Yes.
and he had really stalled out in his development, and it's crazy looking back at it now and seeing what's happened to him since. The best year of his career was 2017 here in Atlanta. Yep. And it's not a knock. I mean, he was a really good player in the system. He fit really well, but it all came together for him here where it didn't anywhere else.
Yep. And to your point, you go to Charleston, and we'll get to a point here in a minute, I'm sure.
Maybe eventually.
You go to Charleston in the Challenge Cup.
Yep.
And Joseph scores a diving header in the first game. Like, oh, this guy's got moxie. And then he does it again. And then, a couple of games later into the season, you're like, we should trigger the purchase option now.
Yeah, I think it was after the Minnesota game, after game number 2. It's like, he's ours. You're not getting it back.
He scored a hat trick on Hawk.
It's funny thinking back to 2017 in preseason. Today's game was actually really similar to the Seattle game.
Yeah.
The Seattle game was the first game I ever got a chance to call. We did it for ESPN Coastal out of Savannah and Brunswick and Hilton Head. And John Nelson and I called it. It was the first game that I ever called, and they were ready to fight at the end of that game.
Yes.
And that one got nasty towards the end. Ladero was wanting to fight people. I think Almiron wanted to fight people. It was great. And that was so similar to today in the sense that you had an edge. You had that nastiness to it. You don't always get that in preseason. A lot of times you get guys backing off. You don't get to play at 100% intensity in preseason as often as you would like. Getting that today, really valuable.
Yeah, and it's not like the Saudi. It's like the game in Saudi Arabia that we watched the other day with Miami, where the Etihad player like dove in and like whack on the back of the leg on one of the Miami kids.
Yeah. Yep.
It wasn't like dirty tackles, but it was guys were going in. They were leaning into it. They were taking a piece of flesh as they went. They were in midseason mode. They were getting up ready to fight and ready to go. And you do need to have that. You can't go into game one. It's the same thing of like you can't go into game one of the season where you're in a football game, an American football game, where those boys don't look like they're ready to hit. You can't have that. You have to have, to bring back Mark Richt, you have to have mat drills. You have to have padded practices. You have to have these games where you are going to hit, where you are going to get tackled, where you are going to be physical and fight and yell and argue and also manage that emotion to be able to find your cap mentally.
Yeah, you have to get that because you can't get that in training. You can't get that, in a warm-up. You only get that when you're playing somebody else. And today, both teams came in with a point to prove. We talked to Gonzalo Pineda yesterday. He said, I remember what happened last year in the Open Cup. Talked to Nick Firmino earlier in the week. Same thing. He's like, this game has a little extra to it because of what happened last year in the Open Cup. Memphis, it's a game where they can prove themselves. It's a game where guys can shine. It's a game where some guys can get contracts. You had some guys with no numbers on their back out there today. You had guys who are fighting for a contract spot. You have guys who are trying to move up to MLS, trying to impress. So you got everything you wanted out of today. Now you go down to Florida and you get 2 games in a short period of time. Great for fitness. The trip away, great for bonding, which is important with this group.
We're going to lock you in a hotel and you're going to become friends, hell or high water.
Yep. And you get 120 minutes against Montreal. What we've been told, that game's going to be 4 30-minute segments. Okay. So guys will play 2 60s will Makes be sense. The ideal there. That'll be available to watch on the stream. I'll be calling that one. I don't know, Kessie. Maybe we'll see Joseph Martinez with Montreal in that one.
Maybe.
He's been to Montreal. He hasn't been signed officially yet. At least they haven't announced it. We'll see. That would add a little extra spice to that potentially. And then you get the game against Tampa Bay, which will be close to a dress rehearsal.
It'll have some spice to it.
Rowdies? Oh, yeah.
Spice.
If the Rowdies are like they used to be, and we've called games with Atlanta United 2 and Tampa Bay Rowdies. Tampa Bay's a direct physical team. Big, strong, physical, little nasty. That'll be a challenge.
Yeah, not afraid to play through the whistle, not to the whistle.
They'll play to the whistle, through the whistle. They'll beat you over the head with the whistle.
Hey, they do what they got to do. I mean,
Our resident Fort Lauderdale Strikers fan is very angry about the Tampa Bay Rowdies.
that's fine. It was
That's an old school rivalry.
It is, and it's the same thing with like the beauty of the Open Cup, because like you would occasionally get like, hey, Orlando's going to play Tampa. How's this going to go? It's going to be blood.
Yeah.
There's going to be stabbings
On the field and maybe in the stands with those two.
Because again, Orlando goes back in the day.
Ooh.
Tampa hates them. Everyone hates Fort Lauderdale. Everyone hates each other.
That's an underrated rivalry.
It really is.
Since we've got a few folks here, this always comes up. I'm curious to get a sense of the pulse.
Yeah.
Atlanta rivalries. Like, I feel like it's very apropos we're in Athens right now, because it's the comparison I always make is Georgia football has 5 rivalry games out of 12 every year, maybe 6. Like you have scale of rivalry.
Yeah.
And I think it's different for everybody. If you guys don't know by now, he knows. Everybody else knows in the SDH family. Tennessee is my rival. I hate Tennessee.
And I think a lot of that for you has to do with the time period you were at Georgia,
Yes.
because of a certain large four-headed individual.
Yes, that guy. Can't stand him.
Yeah.
Was rooting for a broken leg at the time. I was a little emotional about it at the time.
That's fine.
I will always remember when Georgia finally beat Tennessee for the first time in a long time. That was one of the greatest nights in downtown Athens history. There was a lot of alcohol consumed by a lot of people. I was included in that. I remember where we watched the bar, the dearly departed Firehouse down the street. Our tab somehow was $15. It's good to know, people. It was a long night, and they played Who Let the Dogs Out over and over and over again that night because that song was out. It wasn't hated at that point.
Okay.
It worked at that time.
Okay.
Every bar played it.
You're describing a very narrow span of human history.
But I
And
want
we're
you to
talking like,
understand.
we're talking like PVC pipe of human history.
I
where
want-
that song is accepted.
I want you to understand. In Athens on that night, it was absolutely acceptable. It was heavily encouraged. So, like, that's why I hate Tennessee.
Yeah. I
Maybe-
wasn't even going to say their name.
I hate Tennessee. Some Georgia fans hate Georgia Tech more. Some hate Auburn more.
Florida.
Some hate Florida more. Some hate South Carolina. That's an underrated one.
That's a weird one. That's more of a drunken because
A drunken bar fight as opposed to a rivalry. Is that what you're saying?
Georgia, South Carolina has the same vibe of like Auburn, LSU. They've never played a normal game of football.
That's true.
Like
It's always dumb.
Georgia and South Carolina you could not watch the game and the final score could be like 17-14, and they will both have found ways to get to those numbers that no one has ever thought of before in the history of the sport.
Yeah, just absurdity. So everybody's got different feelings on rivalries.
Yeah.
With Atlanta United, I think everybody's different about this. Like, Orlando was the first, like, rival. And they were. And, look, maybe it's a little different now. I don't like Orlando. I don't like going there. Their fans start chanting stuff, like, when we walk in the building.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. I don't like Orlando. I don't like Red Bulls. I don't like Toronto. For me, my rival, the team I hate, and it's really close to Tennessee. It's really close to how much I hate Tennessee. It's the Philadelphia Union. And I hate the way they play. I hate the games we've had with them. Like, personally, I hate the Philadelphia Union and their style of play and everything about them. For people out there, and you guys can react by yelling, clapping, however you want, because I'm curious what the biggest rival is now, because I don't know.
I think it changes every year, and I think it changes as coaches change, as cultures change. Orlando, we talked about this before off air. Orlando's culture changed so much when Oscar took over and when Nani was put out of an airlock.
That's the one. That's the one.
When
They became less obnoxious when Nani left the league.
When they put Nani in a zero-pressure chamber and hit the big red button, things changed. And their culture changed, their mentality changed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I agree. So, Orlando, how much do you hate Orlando? Yeah, see, I think Orlando's turned into that. It's kind of like
it felt forced in the first place. It felt for me.
They were the most local.
Yes, there's a sense of there is a sense of some god somewhere, some soccer god grabbing Atlanta or Orlando. You two are next to each other. You're rivals now.
But then you had game one
into it.
You had the games matched up too.
Yeah.
You had game one down there, the rocket from Tito to get the winner late. Brad's first game with Atlanta United.
The winner from Tito.
Game two, the equalizer from Tito at Bobby Dodd. The last game at Bobby Dodd. My favorite moment outside of trophies being won, that one. And then the 3-3 game at the Benz. The 3 games they played that year were all insanity.
Yep.
So Orlando, the rivalries died down a little bit. I'm going to let you speak on this one because I think I know who yours is. And you don't like Nashville SC very much, do you, Jarrett?
I don't care for Nashville. What?
Oh, Maddie might be with you on that.
Yeah. I have negative feelings about Nashville in general, and a lot of it is still my staring at Nashville, asking where your trophies are for the insanity that they scream.
Wow.
I see no trophies.
Well, they're 4 years old.
I saw trophies when we were 4 years old.
That's true.
I saw trophies on LAFC when they were 4 years old.
That's true.
I saw Chicago had a trophy when they were 1 year old.
Well, there were only 10 teams in the league then. 12.
Trophy's a trophy.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. Fair enough.
The banner flies forever.
KFC loves Hani Mukhtar.
Hani, I like Hani Mukhtar, and I respect him as a player, and I think he's the perfect fit for that club.
He is.
My beef with North Nashville is that when Hani Mukhtar stops being Hani Mukhtar, what does Nashville do?
They have nothing.
They don't.
They defend.
Because Hani Mook, they were the most individually dependent player in the league last year.
100%.
I think they won one game where Hani Mukhtar did not score or assist.
Yeah.
If he did not score or assist, they did not win. They are an individual dependent team. Everyone kept telling me that Sam Surridge was going to be a life-changing striker, and he put 2 balls into the back of the net that were served to him on a silver platter. I adore Hani Mukhtar. I somehow think Hani Mukhtar is underrated, and I don't know how that's the case. I feel like he's still underrated, even though he won a damn MVP.
I would agree. He's so vital to that team.
Nashville is just kind of when Hani's done, if you don't get the next Hani right, what do you have, Nashville?
So
because you have an academy that hasn't really done academy.
No, they haven't done anything.
You have a second team that plays a very psychotic and fun style that clashes directly with what your first team does.
Yeah, 90 minutes down the road as well. It's a little different.
Yeah.
So since this is the Haters Ball edition of the Peachtree Post, how much hatred is there out there for Nashville? Some shrugging. Okay, you're going to have to drive the hatred for Nashville, Jarrett.
I do, and
you can do it.
Yeah, I
have faith in you.
Doesn't hurt my feelings.
So yeah, the one that has emerged, and a big reason why is big games that were on the line.
It's so
clash of styles as well, but big games, big moments. Do the New York Red Bulls still have that hatred? Wow, they do.
The Red Bulls rivalry. The Red Bulls rivalry is organic.
Absolutely organic. I agree.
You had the first game. Yamil Assad scores. Somehow doesn't blow his knee out trying to slide on the grass at Bobby Dodd.
That wasn't clear.
Where he slides.
That was a problem.
Then you give up 2 goals late in that game when I think it's Alex Mouille comes in and changes it. Oh, no, it's Daniel Royer comes in and changes that game.
Daniel Royer, that guy. If you're talking about a player
Atlanta killer
of like Peyton Manning killing Georgia for years, Daniel Royer of all people, he killed Atlanta United.
But you
couldn't stand that guy.
Even in Atlanta's best season, they could not get over the Red Bull hump until the playoffs. And you went through all these years without winning a single game against Red Bulls, even in your best of times. All the trophies you put on your shelf, all the glory, all the banners,
regular
all the
season
records.
game.
I'm getting there.
Okay.
All the records, all the banners you could not get over that hill. But the one time you did it was to deny them their most pure and sincere shot at a title. A team that has been tortured in the playoffs. Look,
Metro playoff fever. Catch it.
Yes.
That's an old school MLS reference for you.
That is so Metro.
That is definitely so Metro.
Metro and Red Bulls, never being able to get over the hump. The 2018, you will never convince me that Red Bulls would not have beaten Portland into a pulp.
Yeah, anybody. Portland made such a run to get there. Yeah, Red Bulls would have won their title.
You will never convince me that 2019 Atlanta would have beaten Seattle and won 2 straight cups.
Hold that thought, because that's going to be another one that I have a question about.
Red Bulls, you took away their best chance at MLS Cup and a chance at a double. And no matter how many times they beat you in the regular season, you get to point to that.
So far, the haters committee at Creature Comforts in Athens, Georgia, is voting for the Red Bulls as the most hated team in MLS. You brought up 2019, and this one surprised me when it came up.
Yeah.
I didn't have the hatred until later on with this group.
Oh,
Toronto. Toronto FC. How much do y'all hate Toronto? There's some. There's some. I think it's certain people really hate Toronto.
I think it's individuals as much as anything too.
Yeah.
And some of this has to do with the fact that fans still have a very sore spot in their soul for Michael Bradley, for Josie Altidore, and whether you like it or not, they do have that. And then
I got
you
issues
have
with
the
this.
issue in 21, was it, or 22, 21 or 22?
We've had issues with them quite a few times, actually.
When Josie,
it was 20.
was it 21?
It was 21.
When Josie takes the throw in that's supposed to go back and he just tries to score with it.
Yeah. So
and then Marcy scores at the death.
So
and Mike is doing everything he can not to get an FCC violation.
Oh no, I almost got one when Josie stole the throw in, because it was a situation where Alro cleaned out Barco at midfield. They didn't call the foul. It was played out. It was supposed to be thrown back into Atlanta because Barco was down. Then they throw it in, and I think Bradley threw it in. He's throwing it into Atlanta, like into their own half. Josie jumps in front and steals it and goes in on goal.
Yep.
And it's ended up, they clean it out. Brad's about to kill Josie. Everybody's about to fight there. Behind the scene, Alro and Barco go head to head. They ultimately get sent off. All of it continued into the tunnel. When Josie jumped in front and stole the ball, I nearly broke all of our sound levels. I yelled so loud. I'm sure they heard it down there because I knew what was happening. I knew what he was doing, and it was so wrong. And then Marcelino Moreno scored the late goal to seal it, and I can't remember Mike's call on it, but it was epic. And Toronto was not very happy about that. I don't like Toronto.
Yeah.
They're on the list for me. I don't like Toronto.
But in these things, stuff like this in Red Bulls in Toronto, it's organic because it's not like we were told this is going to be your rival. Like, you develop that rivalry organically through the games of raw hatred that you have with them. It's beautiful.
But you have multiple things. Like, you have rivalries that are proximity. Yes. And now Nashville, that's grown into one for you. That's grown into one for Maddie. Charlotte hasn't been good enough to have the hatred yet, I don't think, because they just haven't.
If Nashville will get themselves right, Nashville and Cincinnati has the potential to be incredibly nasty going back to their USL days.
It's weird they haven't, though. Like, I keep waiting for Nashville and Cincinnati to want to kill each other.
Yes.
Cincinnati's so focused on Columbus. That's been the issue. Nashville is kind of focused on us. Charlotte definitely focused on Atlanta. Charlotte's tried to build everything to be like Atlanta, but they haven't been good enough. And yeah, that's the thing about Charlotte that has changed it. I think year one, you had a little bit of friction.
Yeah.
David Tepper coming out of the box, saying what he said about Atlanta, even though then he tried to hire everybody he could from Atlanta and model everything after Atlanta and do like a Xerox copy of it, and it didn't work. But yes, the passing of Anton Walks, I think, brought the supporters groups together for sure. It's changed that relationship.
How many players from Charlotte day one are still there?
I don't know how many in total, but out of their first 10 signings, 2. They're going on into year 3. They have 2 guys out of their first 10 that they signed.
Yep.
Eek. I feel bad. I feel bad for Charlotte. You want to know how the comparing rivalries to Georgia rivalries? I feel bad for Tech often.
Yeah.
I don't hate Tech. It's like I'm kind of like, oh.
Are you just more annoyed by the message boards associated with Tech than Tech itself?
Some of the people around it, yes, because they're ridiculous. They win once in 15 years, and it's like they won a national championship. It's ridiculous. The actual like Tech, like it's kind of like, oh, can you guys get to be competitive? Kind of.
They're getting there.
I think they're on the right path. It's kind of how I feel about Charlotte. They are not on the right path because they have one designated player right now, and he didn't seem all that happy there last year, and the other two got shipped out a couple days ago, and we'll see.
It's fine though. This is fine.
I'll tell you another one that is starting. I'm noticing it, and I want to test the room a little bit. Miami. How do you feel about Miami?
It's in Fort Lauderdale.
See, I love Messi, so this is going to be a little difficult for me.
It is in fact in Fort Lauderdale.
It's
this
Miami.
is like when Chicago. It's like we're the Fire. No, you're
Bridgeview.
You're the Bridgeview Fire.
Miami, it feels like, is going to be that team this year that might not be a rival for people outside of Orlando, but will be hated by everybody because they're going to get so much attention.
Everyone is going to try and put Miami in a torture rack for 90 minutes out of spite. It's going to be fun to watch. We were talking about this before the show that Vegas is going to have to up the over-under for the Miami games because people are going to try and embarrass Miami. They're going to give up goals doing so.
Well, yeah.
But, you might get like 6 goals a game out of Miami because they can't defend.
No, they're not very fast, and they're not very good defensively. Yeah, it's a – we'll see. They'll be better than they've been in preseason. They will be a playoff team. I am not convinced that the way that they're currently constructed, they'll be a top 4 playoff team. I don't think so. Ropes mentions the LAFC, kind of like how they were the league darlings.
LAFC. I have a beef with the way they were covered.
Yeah.
And LAFC is about to come into a really weird time where they're not going to be the darlings anymore.
Yeah, no, I mean
that's going to be fun for everybody.
Sure. They're not going to make the final this year. Is there anybody else, any other teams out there that people just really hate? Who? NYCFC, that's the other one. That's a good one.
Seattle as well.
Okay, I want to get into Seattle. NYCFC, what's the hate level on the Pigeons?
Is it because of the field?
The field is part of it. I hate that place. I hate. At least we're gonna be in City Field this year. I don't know if that's gonna be better for us or not. Very nice.
City Field is just the land where dreams go to die a lot faster than that Yankee Stadium.
Well, it's the new Yankee Stadium too, so it's not even like really great dreams.
Yeah.
There's some good ones in there, I guess, but how would I know? We're like, miles away from the actual soccer pitch in that building.
City Field, the house that Kaz Matsui built.
We'll see. New York City, I feel like maybe it's died down a little bit. In year one, you go to organic rivalry in 2017, that was it.
Yeah.
Because you had the game up there that had some edge to it. Then Atlanta blew them out of the building at Bobby Dodd early. That was the first really big win.
Yeah.
Really big moment. And they were mad about it. David Villa wanting to fight people as he was getting subbed out. It was great. That one feels like it's maybe died down a little bit. I heard Seattle being hated.
Yep.
How's the hate level on Seattle? It used to be high in the league. Like in the league, it used to be really high. I think LAFC took that spot in terms of being the darlings. Oh no, they won a title in 16 and in 19 and lost in the final in 20. That was where it started to fall off.
They sold their soul for CONCACAF Champions League.
Yeah. Well, they sold João Paulo's knee, and that's what ruined that season after that.
But, they haven't been the same club since then.
Yeah. Look, they got old. That team was very old last year. When I remember going through that roster and preparing for that game, I'm like, these are all guys over the age of 32, and they're not going to be able to run with these kids.
Portland was facing the same problem.
Portland went through it as well. I don't like Portland's one. I don't think really got a lot of hatred because everybody hated Seattle in the league because Seattle was that's how it's supposed to be. Seattle invented soccer. Seattle's great. Then Atlanta got that for some people around the league. People hated Atlanta because they got that attention. Then LAFC took it. Now Miami's taking it in a big way.
It didn't help that Seattle came in here in 2018 and played one of the most regressive games of soccer you've ever seen in your life.
That game.
This is like a week after they had played in New England.
Yeah.
And Brad Friedel, who is not the most reliable narrator to ever exist.
No, he's not.
Brad Friedel, who said that Brian Schmetzer came up to him and apologized. Said, sorry, I just don't have the people to play right now, so we're not going to play. Whether or not that's true or not, again, Brad Friedel being the narrator, we don't know. But, God, they played like it.
They came in here and they had just gotten Raul Ruidiaz, and they parked the bus for pretty much the whole game.
They got a penalty off of a deflection off of an arm where they're just pumping in random crosses.
So bad.
And it was a slog. It was like watching somebody walk through Passchendaele in World War I. And it's just like
you and your references.
Mud.
You and your references.
It's just like watching someone slog through waist-high mud for 90 minutes.
Man.
The joy and schadenfreude that would have come from winning in 19 and just demolishing them because they had beaten LAFC. So if you'd have beaten Toronto, you would have hosted them.
Yep.
And then you could have buried the ghost and then buried the body and poured concrete over it.
Can you imagine if Atlanta had won back-to-back MLS Cups?
I often think about it.
Beating Portland and Seattle.
I often go back and look at the XG from the Toronto game. Yes.
Yeah, and it would have been a treble in 2019.
Yep.
They were so close to it, too. Yeah, actually, and that might not have been a bad thing, to be perfectly honest.
Hey, look, if the world doesn't shut down in 2020, you still might have Frank.
The whole, alternative history lines that could have happened if Joseph doesn't blow out his knee on a bad field in Nashville and the world doesn't shut down, things could have looked really, really different. Yeah. PB&J 2020, Atlanta United. PB&J is the biggest what if in Atlanta United history.
Once again, don't just point to Joseph's knee. Go look at how many players have gotten hurt in Nashville on that trash-ass surface over the years.
Yeah, it's not. That's why they changed it to this weird hybrid thing now. So, well, that too. So what I would say as we close out this edition of the Peachtree Post inside of Soccer Down Here that started with the full-time report, hatred for teams and passion about games, it's good. Yes. I get more up for games on teams that I might not like for whatever reason. That's a good thing.
Let me give you one. You're not allowed to answer this because I know how you feel about it.
I might be able to.
No, you're not allowed to.
Okay.
We don't face them anymore, but they were close to our hearts. Charleston. Because you saw Charleston every year.
Oh, Charleston.
You smacked them in the face every year. Charleston took it. They took it personal, too.
Do I get to tell the story?
No.
Why not?
Only if you want to.
I'll tell it.
Charleston fans took it personally. I don't blame them. They wanted to do what Memphis did last year.
Yeah,
Charleston
they wanted to so bad.
Charleston fans were ripping their scalp off watching Memphis beat Atlanta. That could have been us. We could have done that.
Oh, Charleston. So my hatred for Charleston, and they're on my list. They might be in the top 3 on my list. I hope we play them in the Open Cup this year. Charleston, back in the day, way back in the day. I'm going way back, pre-Atlanta United. When the Silverbacks were on hiatus. I'm going back to then. 2009, we had a team in the NPSL called Atlanta FC. It ended up becoming the Silverbacks reserves. It was myself, Ricardo Montoya from Soccer in the Streets, a number of players from the local Latino leagues in Atlanta, and we qualified for the Open Cup. We had to go to the Region 3 tournament down in Jacksonville, Memorial Day weekend, and run through a gauntlet of games in 2 days and qualified. So we got into the tournament and got drawn with Charleston. So rode over to Charleston the night before the game. We get in there, and the referee crew, as we arrived to the stadium the day of the game, the referee crew who knew me, I knew one of them, and they knew about Ricardo, the very vocal coach on the touchline.
That's a very, very nice bit of footage.
Very vocal coach.
Very animated.
Very animated. Very demonstrative, Jarrett. So they separate us. We walk out to the field. The referee who knows me takes me one way. The other referees take Ricardo the other way. And they basically like tell us, well, we heard about you guys at regionals and you're not going to come up here and act like that. And we're like, what? We had one guy sent off for 2 yellows. Like nothing happened. So the game starts. Charleston scores in the first minute off a corner. Just an awful start. Then our guys start dominating. This is against a pro team in Charleston, second division. Our guys are amateurs. Guys had to take off work to go. I mean, it was crazy. So we get there. We're starting to dominate the game. Their captain at the time, behind the play, headbutts our captain. Behind the play. Nobody saw it. Referee, the ball's on the other end of the field. Headbutts him. Just turns and, like, headbutts him. And our captain was, like, yay tall. Their guy was, like, Jarrett size. So it went badly. Everybody comes together in, like, a pull-apart. Everybody's pushing, shoving, whatever. The referee didn't see it. The AR, I don't know what they saw. Their captain doesn't get sent off. Our captain doesn't get sent off. Our left back, who had nothing to do with any of it, who came running into the pile with everybody, he gets sent off. Supposedly put his hand in somebody's face.
Okay, well, that's how it goes.
So a man down, 20th minute or so, 1 goal down. It's the Open Cup. I mean, it's just like, hey, we're just throwing everything at this now. They score right after that, so it's 2-0. Then rest of the first half, dominate. We have chances. They're standing on their head, keeping us out with 10. Second half. Our best attacking player, guy who played professionally in Uruguay, was 35 years old at this time. Amazing guitar player and singer, by the way. He ends up going in for a tackle, gets the ball. They give him a yellow card, call the foul. 2 minutes later, goes in for another tackle, gets the ball, wins the tackle. They call the foul, give him a second yellow. Like immediately, bang, bang. Okay, this is where it starts to feel like this is not on the up and up at this point. So our coach, Ricardo, I'm on the bench with everybody. I was the team ops guy. Ricardo, our coach, is on the edge of the bench closest to midfield. Ricardo has a sub card in hand to sub that guy out who just gotten the yellow card, and he gets sent off. Ricardo then crumples it up. It's a piece of paper. Crumples it up, throws it on the ground, goes back to the end of the bench to write a new sub card because we've got to change things. We're playing with 9 guys at this time. The AR on the near side, who was on the other half of the field, comes running into our technical area, yelling in Ricardo's face, and says, "You can't do that. You can't act that way. You can't do that." And Ricardo's like, "What did I do?" Like, calm, which is not like Ricardo. And the AR,
honestly, that's more jarring when he's calm.
He was calm. It was a little scary.
That's more jarring when he's not angry.
The AR calls the ref over and says he's got to go. The AR told the ref to send our coach off, and he did. So our coach is sent off. We're 2 guys down at this point. It's 2 goals down, 55th minute or so. One of our guys was a little bit of a hothead, and he made sure that he got sent off. And he made sure that he did it properly. He went studs up. Cup. Just the magic of the cup. Flying in like he's this high off the ground, as high as the table is, off the ground, studs up right in front of their bench into somebody. Yeah, we're down 2 players, the 2 goals. He's like, whatever, I'm going to go down in history at this point. So that happens. I'm on the bench with our assistant coach. We're like, what do we do now? And Charleston's coach, for some reason, decides to start yelling at me. I have no idea what I did to him, dropping some things that I cannot say. No. The word classless was used when I wasn't the coach or doing anything. A lot of other words were used. And then the funniest thing about that game, and this is why I hate Charleston so much, the funniest thing about that game, it's 11v8 at this point. We got a 17-year-old kid playing who wasn't supposed to play, Junior Sandoval, who's still playing now.
Holy, wait, what?
Junior was 17, a junior in high school. He has to play in this game because of everything happening.
Coincidentally, 2 months ago, committed one of the most egregious red cards I've ever seen in Open Cup.
He will never play an Open Cup again. No.
No, he will not.
He might have followed the guy who got the red card in this game. Yeah. It happens. So we're playing 11v9 at this point. It's just chaos. They were so hell-bent on running the score up and throwing guys forward. They could not score another goal. It's actually 11v8 at this point, sorry. They could not score another goal against 8 players. And they were so mad about it afterwards. It was the greatest thing. After the game, we go back to the hotel. We're driving back the next day. We had some beers for a while, a long while. The referee crew was staying at the hotel. We were sitting out in front of the hotel because the bar had closed. The referee crew pulls up. They see us. They pull around to the back and go in the sideway. Probably a smart move.
Probably.
And yeah, that's why I hate Charleston. Story time with Jason. There you go.
I'm imagining. So, for those of you who've never seen Junior Sandoval play, he played for Apotheos last year and played for Kalhanji in the past. Junior is built much like an industrial trash can.
He is now. Yeah.
Yeah. He's yay big, but he's just all solid.
Yeah.
And the idea of him like at 17 years old is very funny to think about because now he's just sits in the midfield and people just bounce off of him.
He was a winger at that point.
God.
Game is what impressed.
He can't run that much anymore. I love Junior, but he can't run that much anymore.
He was already committed to go to Georgia Perimeter before they were part of Georgia State.
Yeah.
Played 1 year there as a JUCO. But that game is what impressed Colin Clark, and that game is what got Junior Sandoval a pro contract. That game's what got Junior Sandoval paperwork, to be honest. Like, that's what got him into the system to be able to play at this level and got him a pro deal with Puerto Rico and started his pro career, and he's still playing now. It's amazing.
He is still
That
playing
game,
now.
that crazy game. And I think we still have some players who are, if you go through the handbook for the Open Cup, that are still banned from ever playing in the Open Cup from that game.
Well, I remind people that Leandro Gonzalez Pires is still banned from Open Cup.
He's banned. Yep.
LGP got that red card in the final against Minnesota. They didn't have an Open Cup when he was in Miami.
Yep. If he comes back, he can't play in the next Open Cup game.
Correct. LGP is suspended for the next Open Cup game.
Ricardo finally served his suspension
When?
in 2014 with the Silverbacks when he was an assistant coach. Well, then he got sent off in Colorado when that game ended up all crazy, and he had another suspension.
If you don't know that game,
That game was amazing.
Go look it up. I was taking an exam in college. I was taking an online test in college. I was in summer classes. I almost failed my test because I had the tablet pulled up watching this game. And spoiler alert, the game ends 10v8 with 3 players from Atlanta Silverbacks getting sent off, 1 player from Colorado Rapids getting sent off. They played it in Colorado.
Both head coaches got sent off, and Ricardo got sent off.
Who was coaching for Colorado? Was it?
It was Pablo Mastroeni.
Pablo
Mastroeni got sent off for nothing. Like nothing at all.
And Atlanta's head coach was Eric Winalda.
He got sent off.
He got sent off.
He deserved it. He was on the field. Ricardo got sent off. He was on the field.
So then the Silverbacks hang on for a 2-1 win, 8v10.
8v10. I actually.
Somehow Ricardo's still not allowed in Open Cup.
No. He served that suspension when they lost to Chicago in the quarterfinal the next week.
Fair.
So that game, I actually
They
ran.
almost beat Chicago in that game, if I remember correctly.
They did. It was a late goal. I actually ran the Silverbacks Twitter account for that game. That was difficult when all of that happened.
Ellipses?
Yeah, there was a lot
I
of. What can I say? I'm not officially an employee here.
You don't have to go back and watch it because it hurts. If you don't know that
Go
game,
watch it.
Please go watch that game and pick it up in like the 60th minute when Atlanta's up 2-0 on a shocking win. Like they're winning in Colorado.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. And then it wasn't Junior. Who was Junior? Was it Burgos?
No, it was Jaime Chavez who scored both goals and then stomped on a player.
Yeah, Jaime Chavez executes a Seth Rollins curb stomp.
Yes, he
before
did.
Seth Rollins was a professional wrestler. Like,
Yes.
This Colorado player's on the ground, and he just walks up and whack, and just steps on him and walks away, like as if he had just kicked a dandelion.
The funniest thing about that game is how the Silverbacks ended up managing it late. Ryan Rushandell was on the bench. He did not come into the game because his cell phone was in his bag next to the fence, next to the bench, and that was how the messages were being given on how to shift things around until very, very late when the fourth official spotted it and didn't let Ryan continue to go stretch. Like he stretched for like 50 minutes in that game. Didn't let him go back to stretch again. You know, he try to stay limber, you know. All right, we've completely derailed soccer down here and Peachtree Post and Full-Time Report and all of it.
Yeah.
John and Maddie, why don't y'all come up and try to make some sense of closing this thing out? Yes.
I just made a lot of feedback. I'm sorry. Don't even get me started about rivalries, though.
Oh,
They were
I know.
talking about that.
So
I have thoughts.
that's what happens on SDH.
Yep.
Monday through Friday morning, 9:05 a.m. Eastern time until 11 whenever. And like I said, Madison Cruz on the ones and twos. She produces the morning show. She's hanging out with us. She's doing correspondence stuff. She's all over the place. Thanks to Maddie's family here at the front table, by the way. And thanks to everybody. Ropes. Is this SDH or hardcore history? Yeah. But once again, that's kind of what we do here on a daily basis. Go to Spreaker. That's our host. If you don't have downloaded the Spreaker app, please do so. Do a search for Soccer Down Here. You can listen to the show, set your notifications on your favorite podcatcher, and that's how you can catch up with us Monday through Friday. All of the independent programming that we do outside of the daily morning show Monday through Friday. But it's fun to have Maddie as a part of it right now, and it's a home game for you this week.
Oh yeah, it is. We came to Athens, and I was like, ooh. I was like, we're in my area right now. Go Dogs, baby. That's what I have to say.
Gee, I know that never happens around here.
What can I say? Listen, they had gotten the topic of talking about SEC. They said Tennessee, and I said, "Oh no, don't do that." If you mention Tennessee and Jason, that kind of sets him off, and I can't.
He kind of like yells and starts speaking in tongues.
Alabama, I have a moderate respect for. Do I not like them? Yes.
Well, then
do I have
you
a respect
definitely
for
would
them?
not survive
Yes.
in my household because the boss is an Auburn alumna. And that's why our marriage succeeds. We just celebrated our 11th anniversary back in January, and we are a cross-conference marriage. We are a cross-conference marriage. I'm an ACC, she's an SEC, and so I am Auburn tolerant, I guess, is probably the best way to phrase it. So anything that you reference in dealing with the University of UAT, as they call it in Auburn, you have UAB in Birmingham. They call it UAT in Tuscaloosa.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so that's
Nice.
the disdain that they have, and you should share in that disdain.
Okay.
Have a proper respect for what has been accomplished, but have a proper disdain for who they are.
I mean, I've been lucky. I kind of grew up in an area where, Georgia was actually good. I didn't grow up to when, the trials and errors that Georgia was before I was born. So I kind of have the best of both worlds right now. So
Yes,
I'm
you
kind of
do.
chilling. So
All right, so the broadcast plans once again for SDH, Monday through Friday, everything else. Once again, pick favorite podcatchers. You can set your notifications when you have the live show and everything else with Maddie, with Jarrett, with Nick Alifi, who is back inside 285, and he's doing stuff there today. We'll be back at it again tomorrow, actually. We might send out the bat signal because we will know where matches are being played for the grand planetary extravaganza that's supposed to happen in this hemisphere in 2026. So around 3 o'clock, maybe set your bat signals and your alarms and everything, and we'll walk through that tomorrow as a part of everything. Final thoughts from the match, the 1-1 draw over at the soccer complex.
I'm excited to see what happens kind of going on, especially when they go to Tampa, getting to see kind of how they're going to adjust there. I want to see a preseason match where we have more of a full lineup of what it's going to look like. Because right now we're kind of in a waiting game of we have the Birmingham match, we got to see a little bit. Then we have the other match, we got to see a little bit more of that. And then this game, we got to see 2 45 halves, and it was still a mix. And so I kind of want to see what the lineup in Pineda's mind is going to be. Because, we all can speculate of who it's going to be, who we think it should be. But I want to see what it actually is going to look like. Because that's going to be the big stance on how we're going to play this season. But overall, I'll say it again. I said it last week. I'll say it again. I'm loving watching the Atlanta United 2 players, the academy players, really show up and not be afraid. They're going up against these players and they're fighting for a spot in that starting 11, as they should. Personally, I think from watching, I've been more excited about watching the 2s than I have been about watching some of the first team players. I mean, they've just been excited. Nick Firmino is a big standout. He's been phenomenal to watch. Noah Cobb, Brendan, I mean, they've all been phenomenal to watch. So I'm excited to see how they do this season.
And they've got a match behind closed doors tomorrow against Georgia Revolution. I know that Dia Graham had asked on the Twitch pitch if the match is going to be streamed. Don't know off the top of my head. As a general rule, follow ATLUTD 2 on the 280-character app. They should let you know one way or the other, or it'll be just live updates as it goes. Tomorrow morning, it'll be them and Georgia Revolution from the NPSL. 3 o'clock will be the breakdown of where things are going to be for the Planetary Extravaganza in 2026, and then obviously we'll be back at it again on Monday morning. I spent a lot of time catching up with my college roommate.
Oh.
Like 30 years ago,
Wow.
35 years ago, college roommate. He was
Okay.
here with his wife tonight. He texts me and he's like, where are you guys going to be? We're not at the match. I said, well, we got a post-game show here at Creature Comforts. And so he came out and we got to hang out for a little bit. So major props to Greg Curling for hanging out and listening to me
Care to
talk
share
about.
any college stories with us? Or
Oh,
no?
we lived in the crappiest apartment known to
Oh.
mankind.
Nice.
Absolutely is the crappiest apartment. But apparently now, I know that this will surprise folks, that as you know, we all grow in college towns, they actually tear down crappy apartments and turn them into nice, shinier apartments that might have, like livable conditions, as opposed to what we had when we were in college back in the days of black and white television and movable type just being introduced. So, but no, it was great to catch up with my last college roommate in Tallahassee. And thanks to everybody here at Creature Comforts. First off, thanks to our friends at Creature Comforts for letting us hang out here for as long as we have. And thanks to our friends at Kaiser Permanente. Kaiser Permanente, thrive, as we are proud supporters of a lot of our content here on SDH across a bunch of different levels. And the Flood Project, that's part of things. Reverb Hotel, presented by Hard Rock Downtown as well. And reminder, our high school schedule starts on Tuesday. Peachtree Ridge and Parkview. That's going to be on the SDH network. And that's going to start our very, very busy sprint of February, March, and April through the high school season. That's going to be a part of things. So let me see if I can get the roster. For Mike, for Jason, for Maddie, for Tyler, for Jarrett, I'm just John. That's another go-round of SDH Live postgame with the 1-1 draw with Atlanta United and Memphis 901 here in Athens today. Thanks to everybody here in Athens. Thanks to everybody who was on the Twitch pitch being a part of the active conversation. Thanks to folks who are going to be listening to it later across all of our platforms. So for everybody here, mucha plati, I'll play it safe. We'll be catching up with you soon. Trust us.